Good morning and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for Wednesday, November 6th.
Commissioner Villegas, Garcia, and Caloza are present. Vice President Garcia, you do have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning, everyone. Yangling Tam, Bureau of Street Services, Streets LA.
Good morning, Sandy Turum, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning, Marcy Reyes with LA Sanitation and Environment.
Good morning, Jose Fuentes, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning, Safi Wiles, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. Vice President Garcia, we did receive one speaker card under general public comment for today. We have no commentary under the Neighborhood Council commentary. We also received speaker cards on all the items for today's agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Campos. We will go ahead with general public comment. We have one speaker card, and this is Arnold Sachs. Mr. Sachs. I think you can switch it up. You can switch it from the mic. Is there a little button there? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning,
I was actually paying attention to the board members. It looks like woman power. Congratulations, ladies.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
But I was going to say, last time I was here, I spoke about an article I read, and it seemed somewhat weird. They were talking about finding a torch with a lion's head on it that was 75,000 years old, I think. And so it's kind of like, don't believe everything you read type thing. But I also want to talk about, I don't know how many people are fans of football, but the game that was played on Monday night was one of the worst I ever saw between America's team, the Cowboys, and New York Giants, the G-Men. It got really chippy at the end, but what I was watching was somewhat interesting. There's like $50 million worth of players on the field at any one time. And you wonder, me personally, I wonder, where's all that money coming for sports? Every sports league that you read about, the money is completely extravagant. There was an article about a Dodger player who passed away, Ron Fairley, who played for like 15 years, someone like that, and then was an announcer for another 30 years. And so his whole lifetime, and he was a pretty good player, it wasn't spectacular, but he was steady. And his whole lifetime, he probably made less than what some of these players pay their chauffeur. And so it's weird how all this money has gotten into sports, and yet the rest of society kind of like, it's entertainment driving the economy. And the rest of the society, well, we're sorry, if you want to pay, if you want to watch a game, even in LA, if you want to watch the Dodgers, they're worth $8 billion, according to the cable contract, but they can't provide TV for all the fans that have stuck by them for 20, 30, 40. They're looking at fans' favorite sports moments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Seeing no other public comment cards, we will close public comment at this time. That takes us to our first item of business, the approval of the minutes for the meeting of Wednesday, October 30th, 2019. Is there a second to my motion to approve the meeting minutes? Commissioner Villegas and Commissioner Caloza. Any objections? Hearing none, those minutes have been approved. This takes us to our first item on the agenda, item number one. Item number one in all council districts, sole source purchase order, oxygen generating facility, Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant. I'm going to read it out, and then before we go, I'm going to take public speaker card, Mr. Sachs, and then I'll call you back up. Thank you. Recommending the board, 1, authorize the purchase of material and labor to overhaul the process air compressors number 1, located at the oxygen generating facility at the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant with a maximum cost of $630,000, including labor, taxes, shipping, and handling. And 2, direct the Department of General Service as authorized by the City of Charter to create a sole source one-time purchase order for the vendor dresser Rand for the purchase of the aforementioned item. Okay, here we go. So item number one, speaker card, Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. And a couple of things about this. I got my claws out today. A couple of things about this item. First of all, the fact that it's a sole source one-time contract. That's number one. But number two, I was wondering if this process air compressor has ever been overhauled in its prior lifetime. And number three, it's an oxygen generating facility. So I would imagine that it's generating oxygen. And the oxygen is not just blown off into the air, but it's captured and sold. So what happens to the revenue that is created by selling the oxygen? People need oxygen for, you see them all the time with the tubes and the carts and everything. How much money is generated by selling the oxygen from this Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant, the facility? It would be interesting to find out and why the money that's generated isn't actually used to overhaul the system. Because if it's not being used to overhaul the system, where is it going? It would be interesting to find that out too. And again, with a one-time purchase order, sole source one-time purchase order, it's more than one time that they use sole source contracts. But thank you for your attention. Please.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Sachs. Representative here joining us today is Mr. Chris Giacoma, and with the Bureau, nope. What Bureau are you at?
LA Sanitation. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Welcome.
So, good morning, Commissioner Garcia, fellow commissioners, and Bureau representative. Again, I'm Christopher Giacomo, wastewater treatment mechanic supervisor with LA Sanitation at the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant. Today, this report is requesting the board to authorize the creation of the sole source one-time purchase order for the overhaul of one of Hyperion's process air compressors. Hyperion uses a high-purity liquid oxygen to activate sludge in the secondary treatment process to remove the pollutants that are remaining after primary treatment. These compressors supply ambient air to the cryogenic facility, which then produces the high-purity liquid oxygen. The oxygen is injected into the secondary reactors, where it enhances biological activity and the removal of pollutants left in the water. The continuous operation of these process air compressors are critical for secondary treatment and Hyperion continuing to meet discharge permit requirements. In 2017, it was found that process air compressor number 1 was experiencing shutdown alarms due to high vibration. After inspection, it was found that we had high bearing wear and scaling on the pinion shafts. It's for these reasons that a major overhaul was required to bring the machine up to operation. We are requesting a sole source one-time purchase order due to the fact that Siemens Dresser Rand is DMAG is the original equipment manufacturer. They have designated a subsidiary, Dresser Rand, as their responsible party for performing industrial compressor service. Siemens Dresser Rand possesses intellectual property of our equipment specifications, part designs, in-house test capabilities, and they also disclaim any warranties for failures due to improper materials or maintenance. And it's for these reasons that we are requesting the authority for the sole source one-time purchase order.
Thank you for that. Any questions, commissioners? Commissioner Calosa.
Thank you, Vice President. Can you just give an overview of how long the lifespan was of the last piece of equipment that we're now replacing?
These compressors were placed in service in 1995. We've only had one instance of one of these compressors being rebuilt in the past, and that was approximately 7 years ago. So this will be only the second instance of this ever happening. And it's also for this reason that maintenance staff doesn't bring familiarity with the rebuild procedures of the compressor due to how infrequent repair is required.
Got it. And so what's the expected lifespan of this new piece of equipment that we're installing?
Yeah, I'd have a hard time answering that. I mean, the manufacturer would claim generally 25, 30 years. outside variables being a marine environment at Hyperion, but that's generally what they state.
Got it. And so this maximum cost of 630,000, that's still potentially negotiated down, correct?
Yes, that will be the max cost.
Got it.
Currently, the budgetary figure based on the scope of what our findings were and given to the manufacturers, I believe 610.
Okay. And then just my last question is, has the city attorney's office reviewed this sole source recommendation, and can we get their concurrence or non-concurrence on the record, please?
I'm happy to address it. I reviewed the report that is in front of you, and for the reasons stated, I concur in the Bureau's recommendation. It's not uncommon for a manufacturer to sort of have you essentially come back to them for maintenance, and this is a reworking overhaul of the existing equipment, and so it's not uncommon for there to be warranty issues that really drive us to continue to use the manufacturer or the original equipment provider for ongoing maintenance or overhaul activity. To do otherwise would subject to the city to increased risk that if something were to go wrong, they would say, hey, that's not covered in any warranty because you went to somebody else. Bottom line is we concur in the recommendation. But it was a good question, though.
Thank you.
Thank you, City Attorney. Thanks for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, is there a second to my motion to approve this item? Second by Commissioner Villegas and Commissioner Dr. Davis.
Appreciate it. You have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
So this will be adopted and forthwith. Am I right? Is that right? All right. Thank you. Thank you for that, Mr. Giacomo. Next item on our agenda is item number 2. Item number 2 is in Council District 11, budget increase, sole source procurement, Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant, intermediate pump station order control facility improvements, and Los Angeles Glendale Water Reclamation Plant blower air cleanup system project, capital improvement project 2253 and 4187. Recommending the board, 1, authorize the city engineer to increase the not-to-exceed amount of the sole sourcing authority for the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant Order Control Facility Improvements Project for the procurement of Matala biotrickling filter media by $25,000 for a total authority of $485,566. And 2, authorize the city engineer to increase the not-to-exceed amount of the sole sourcing authority for the Los Angeles Glendale Water Reclamation Plant Blower Air Cleanup System Project for the procurement of Matala by $185,000 for a total authority of $400,000. And presenting today is Mr. Mike Cerullo, but I'm going to call up public comment first. Item number 2, public comment, Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. So the first item was, let me repeat this. It said, Department of General Services is authorized by the city charter to create a sole source one-time purchase order. But this is a contract. Isn't the contract derived from the purchase order? There's a couple of different things here. I'm just an idiot, but I'd like to know what a biotrickling filter media is, and the difference between an odor control facility and a blower air cleanup system. Pretty much sounds like the same thing. One is at Hyperion, and the other is at a Glendale Water Reclamation Plant. By the way, does the Glendale Water Reclamation Plant also have an oxygen generating facility? I would imagine it might also do that. So there's 2 facilities that generate oxygen, but we don't know what happens to the revenue that comes about from selling the oxygen. And neither one of them are being used for either one of these things. And again, what is a biotrickling filter? It could just be like, you know how you have those, when you want in your water, you want just to have clean filter, you just take a filter, or a coffee filter, you take a filter out, you put a filter in. There's something to be said for the naming of products that turn out to be like a wrench for a screw adjustment maintenance program, and all you need is an Allen wrench, which could cost you $1.280. So it's really interesting. We need a little bit more. I'd appreciate, and I certainly appreciate the people that come in here to discuss these items and and give the public the information as to what's being spoken about in
Minutes.
this writing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Mike Cerullo, please come up from Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning, Mike Cirillo with the Bureau of Engineering. Let me first start out by giving you a little bit of background on biotrickling filters and what they are and what we use them for. I've handed out some media for you to see. That's actually the Matella media. I thought a little show and tell might be useful this morning. So the traditional way to scrub odors out of the wastewater treatment process in the past has been using chemical scrubbers. And those were big in the 80s and 90s. And although effective, chemical scrubbers are expensive to maintain and expensive to buy chemicals, and they're a hazard to workers because you need to acid wash them occasionally. They're really difficult to manage. So in the past 5 to 10 years, we've moved away from the chemical scrubbers and we've moved to a more holistic, sustainable system, which is biotrickling filters. And the way those work is you insert this media in these fiberglass vessels, and you have several layers of it, and you blow the air up through the vessel, and you have a spray on top, and you spray HPE or potable water down over the top, and the bugs grow on this media, and through a natural process, they consume the H2S, and that's how you clean the airstream. So it's much more sustainable, and it's really how we're going with all of our chemical scrubbers. We're actually going to more of a biotrickling system. So before we decided to go with biotrickling filters, we tested several types of media because we had to make sure we were getting the proper removal, the effective removal. All these scrubbers are permitted by AQMD, and if we don't get the proper removal, we cannot put the scrubbers in operation.
Crowd's leaving.
Let me continue.
Yeah.
Got distracted there. We settled on Matella for a media about 10 years ago, and we used it in 3 of our air treatment facilities, which are scrubbers in the collection system, and it's proven to be super effective, resilient. We recently inspected one of the air treatment facilities after 10 years. The media is like brand new. I mean, it hasn't even aged, so we expect to get at least 20 to 30 years out of this media.
Okay.
So the reason I'm here today is we came back in 2017 and we sole sourced, and the board gave us approval to sole source a certain quantity of media for 2 projects, one at Hyperion and one at LAG. But what we've discovered as we started entering construction on one and finished the design on the other is the quantity of media we need is more. And the reason is we weren't too familiar with, at the time that we came to board in 2017 to spec out the quantity, about how the media would need to be installed and the waste that would be generated. So the media comes in rectangular sheets. The vessels are circular, so when you install it in a certain cut pattern, by not having the seams all lined up and you have a circular shape, you're trying to fit a rectangular piece in, there's a lot of waste that you have to cut to fit this media in. And this media is 3 to 5 feet thick and several layers inside this vessel. There's quite a bit of it. So the purpose of being here today is to request an increase in the sole source approval to raise the levels so we can properly install the required quantities of media in the scrubbers to make sure that the removal is there. So that's what I'm here for. And the city attorney concurred with the original sole source and concurs with this one in the report.
Thank you, Mike. I like them. Can I keep it?
Sure, you guys can keep it. Yeah, I
It's a
brought
nice,
it.
pretty looking sponge.
Yeah, you could use it for something. I don't know.
I don't know what, but maybe for the kitchen. Not kidding. Any questions, Commissioners? No questions? No, hearing none. Is there a second to my motion to approve this item? Second with Commissioner Villegas and Commissioner Davis. With that said, we will adopt it and send it forthwith.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mike. Great. Yes, that takes us to our 3rd item on the agenda. This item is for all council districts, contract acceptance, Lopez Canyon Landfill Water Line Replacement, CIP 7277. Recommending that the board, 1, accept this contract. That's it, just 1. We accept this contract, sorry. Okay, second time doing this. Representative today is John Ollinger, Mr. John Ollinger, but before that, we do have a speaker card on item number 3. Mr. Sachs?
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. Is there an oversight board for the Lopez Canyon landfill? And I appreciate the fact, I guess they're using reclaimed water, or what is the other? There's another type of water that goes through the sewer system, recycled water, to, I guess, keep the trash or whatever's dumped in the landfill from blowing around if there's high winds. And the reason I bring this up is because one of my favorite topics at the county is the Sunshine Canyon landfill. And when they opened that up to make it a city-county facility, their claim was that they were putting soil on the dirt, on the landfill, to keep the product from blowing around. They were using a lot of dirt. I mean, like a lot of dirt, costing millions of dollars. So I was wondering, A, why they didn't change. They've changed the math there, and B, did they ever use dirt here, or why they don't use dirt at the Sunshine Canyon landfill? It would seem that it would save a whole heck of a lot of money, never mind the politics that were involved. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. John Ollinger.
Good morning, everybody. John Ollinger, Bureau of Contract Administration. I'm here to ask for your acceptance on the Lopez Canyon landfill water line replacement. The CIP number was 7277 and the work order was S02 PWTRL. The authority to proceed was issued on June 1st, 2018 in the amount of $488,000. The construction was completed on March 11th, 2019 by Kolich & Sons LP under contract number C130179. Kolich & Sons was the top listed contractor on the rotational on-call list for emergency repairs and construction services at the city's wastewater treatment plants. This project provided for the replacement of 2,500 lineal feet of 12-inch high-density polyethylene pipe and the connection of new pipe to an existing 1 million gallon tank, along with the associating thrust blocks, electrical conduits, and pull boxes. This was a backup water line for LAFD firefighting helos. The project was awarded for a not-to-exceed amount of $488,000. The two task work orders were issued totaling $367,219.04. The project was completed at 24.75% below the authorized not-to-exceed amount. The contractor has complied with the equal employment opportunity and labor compliance requirements of the contract. There were no funds disputed or withheld, therefore no funds are due the contractor. Were there any questions?
Any questions, Commissioners? Hearing none, Commissioner Davis has just moved and second by Commissioner Villegas to approve item number 3 forthwith. And we'll go with that motion. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. All right, it's taking us to item number 4 on the agenda. Item number 4 in all council districts, request for qualifications, emergency sewer and storm drain repair on-call list. Recommending the board, 1, authorize the city engineer to advertise and reissue the RFQ on the Los Angeles Business Assistant Virtual Network, BAVN, for the purpose of adding additional contractors to the rotation list for emergency sewer repairs and emergency storm drain repairs, using the current 5-year emergency sewer and storm drain repairs on-call list established on October 30th, 2017, and amended on November 27, 2017, and December 4th, 2017. Second, authorize the staff from Department of Public Works to evaluate and pre-qualify the respondents based on the requirements and procedures set forth in the RFQ. And third, direct the city engineer to submit the proposed emergency sewer repairs and emergency storm drain repairs contractor rotation list to the board for adoption, with recommendations to execute a contract with each of the additional selected contractors. For this item, we have, give me a second, we have Mr. George Huang. I'm going to call, I am public speaker, and then I'll call you up. Item number 4, Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. So item number 4, request for qualifications. And like I said earlier, I appreciate people coming in and explaining some of the more technical detail. And the gentleman who was here explaining on item number 2 mentioned that the pads that you have in front of you are square, rectangular, whichever. But the filters, the apparatus is round. So you would think that with the money that's being spent, that would be included in the request for qualifications, that you'd want to have somebody who can produce a round filter for a round hole. I'm thinking a square peg in a round hole or a round peg in a square hole. Request for qualifications. I need something to fit in a round tube. I don't need something square to fit in a round tube because then I just have to waste it. The other part of this is the virtual network that's been established or hasn't been established. It wasn't established in 2017 when they did 3 amendments to the contract. Kind of like limits who can be available. If you can do the work, you should have an opportunity to do the work. If you're only on a virtual network, then you're excluding who knows how many companies who could do this work. I'm not saying there's 10,000 companies, but there could be more than whoever contractors are on this list. And not every contractor, small business, large business, is on a virtual network. It's an added cost. And doing business in the city and the county of LA is expensive enough. What do you need a virtual network for? It's discriminatory against small businesses, any kind of business. It shouldn't be part of a government process.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Second speaker is Mr. Cyrus Sand. Do you
Sir,
want to speak? You're going to have to come.
If you can come up to the microphone, please.
Yeah.
I think what he's asking is he'd like to speak after staff, because
after staff?
some of his questions may be
Yes, we
answered
were
by
a
the staff.
prior bidder and we're responsible for this. I think it might be helpful, more useful if I speak after, because some of the questions I have may well be answered by Mr. Wong, and I don't need to bring them up.
Okay, no problem. Mr. Wong, please come up. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. George Huang with the Bureau of Engineering. The item before you today is to reopen the request for qualifications for the emergency sewer and storm drain on-call contract. The original contract was established back in October 30th of 2017. A total of 23 contractors were selected as part of this RFQ process. And currently there are 16 active contractors. The remaining 7 had written to opt out during this time, and that could be for a variety of reasons that they want to wait, they don't have enough resources, but they can always be reinstated back with a notification to the Bureau of Engineering. The purpose of this on-call list is to handle essential emergencies related to sewers and storm drains. In the past, the board has 2 separate rotating lists, which is one for sewer and one for stormwater, and that information is on our BOE website so when a contractor has when we have an emergency request from the Bureau of Sanitation, the contractor on top of the list gets called to address that emergency. And then after they respond to it, they get placed back on the bottom of that list. So part of this request is what we're doing is soliciting a new, for new contractors that are coming on. The new list will also still end on November 14th of 2022. There's no extensions for this one. It's going to follow the current on-call list. The contractors that are selected for this new RFQ will also be randomly selected, and then they will be placed at the bottom of the list as they are randomly selected. So what we're doing is, this was initiated by reopening this list was initiated by request by the board of Public Works when we established the original on-call list, and that was to give other contractors the opportunity to get back on this list 2 years after this contract was established. And the criteria for the RFQ are the same. We did not change the criteria for rating for rating the proposals. That's in the board report which gives the same criteria and the same weight to performance evaluation, contractor's performance evaluation, contract compliance, technical capability and capacity, and work experience of the contractor. Because this is an emergency on-call contract, the project is exempt from the business inclusion program, and that was approved. The waiver for that, it was approved by the board on April 28th of 2017. And so the request before the board today is to authorize for Bureau of Engineering to open this RFQ list and post it on BAVN and evaluate the proposals. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, commissioners? Dr. Davis?
Yeah, I just want to say I support this effort and this request by the Bureau, and I hope that we'll use this tool in the future to other lists when we can improve in various areas, not only in terms of performance, but oftentimes in terms of inclusion for other lists, perhaps not necessarily the sewer list, but other lists. So again, I strongly support this tool, and I'm hopeful that as we begin to explore other lists, we will remember that this is a tool that we are using. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We will.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Any questions from commissioners? No. Mr. Sand, do you want to come up now? We'll come back to you, Juan.
Thank you. It's Cyrus Sanai. I'm representing GERBCon Inc. We were actually the people who were responsible for the reopening because at the original time, as Mr. Davis, the president, will recall, our company was at that time a new company that had, while the principals had long experience, the company itself had relatively brief amount of experience. And so we were not successful, not because of any deficit in the ratings on the non-experienced side, but simply the company didn't have as long a list. And so I can't remember if it was you, Mr. Davis, who suggested it, but it was agreed that it would be opened up 2 years subsequent for us to be able to demonstrate a longer list of work. And since that time, GERBCon has done more than 20 other jobs, including for the city of Los Angeles, which it had not at that time worked for. Now, during the time period, we attempted to open up channels of communication to get a good understanding of what additional experience and specific types of experience might be helpful for GERBCon in order to overcome the hump and demonstrate its facility and capabilities. And we had a meeting that was in front of former Commissioner Jacinto, and we've had various correspondence that's gone back and forth. But there's still, from our point of view, an information gap in our understanding of how of some of the details of some of the scoring, how it was applied in the previously, and of course, it's understood that what's being previously done is going to be in the future. Now, we're hopeful that during the RFQ questioning process, we might be able to get some more feedback on that, but that is the one area where we thought that there might be some improvement. Also, I will note that while I was exercising my lawyerly prerogative to pick apart find defects, that there is an error in the actual RFQ that states that the date for response will require us to get into our time-traveling DeLorean and go back into August. So one of the things needs to be changed in the RFQ is the due date for supply, which is set in August. I just point that out as a
2 minutes.
Important date.
Thank you.
Anyway, I look forward to keeping in communication with it and having a successful effort in terms of getting onto the list.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Juan, I'm going to come back up. Do you want, can you check on that comment that Mr. Sand just talked about the slight typo or slight incorrect information on the RFQ? And you don't have to do it now, but just do it in your time and then make us know, yeah. And then we'll make sure that Fernando knows the correction, if there's one.
Okay, and just for my clarification, the typo is regarding
It's the due date that we're talking.
So those that are listening in online through the website, they may not be able to hear the speakers. So his comments were basically that the error is on page 27 of the RFQ regarding a date that BCA can go ahead and update on their own before they release the RFQ. Page 26. My apologies.
Oh, I see. You're saying August 7, 2019? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay, I see it too. Yeah, that probably is, we need to change that.
Okay.
So with amendments, we'll make sure that happens.
Yes, we'll take a look and we'll check the date again. But all the other dates, such as when the RFQ was due, when we're going to host the pre-submittal meeting, and when the last day of questions, those have been updated on this current RFQ.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yes, let's make sure we change that because it does reflect the past date. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
Thank you. Hang on. We haven't approved your motion. Was that your motion, Dr. Davis? So moved. Dr. Davis has moved. Anybody else? Second by Commissioner Calosa. With that had said, we're going to approve this and move it forthwith. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. That takes us to, was that okay? Okay. We're all set with that. That takes us to our fifth and final item on the agenda, item number 5. In an administrative item in all council districts, specifications submitted for board adoption and authorization to advertise for the invitation of bids. This is in Council District 11 for the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant, ferric chloride facility replacement, CIP 2460, work order numbers SZH11854. Estimate $2,090,000. Bid receipt date December 18, 2019. First, we're going to take public comment with that. So, Mr. Sachs, if you're still here, we'll take you for item number 5.
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. So I read this and read it twice, read it 3 times. They're replacing the ferric chloride facility. So it sounds like they're replacing a building at the water reclamation plant, at the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant, and it's going to cost $2 million. I'm thinking that'd be something for the general services to contract out for, because it sounds like it's going to be a major expense for the city, whether it's the Department of what would be the Hyperion? What department do they answer to? They don't answer to any department. But it sounds $2 million for a facility replacement. It sounds like something that would come out of general services contracts based on what the city charter. I mean, your item number 1 says we have a city charter that authorizes sole source contracts. I'm sure that it authorizes or sole source purchase orders. I guess it's the language again. Very concerned somewhat about, not that the board doesn't have the opportunity to authorize the contracts, but I'm not so sure that the board has the general knowledge that's required of this operation. And I don't mean any disrespect to any of the board members, but people from general services or general contractors would have an idea of what the qualifications are for this, and just say, here's $2 million, do whatever you want. Does that include the infrastructure within the facility? Don't know, because it's not included in this contract administration item. Thank you for your
2
time
minutes.
and attention.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Just for the record, this is Bureau Sanitation item. And it's an administrative item, so we don't have a speaker on this. So is there a motion to approve item number 5 forthwith? Dr. Davis has put in the motion. I'll second that motion as well. So we have approved and moved it forthwith, right?
No objections, yes.
Yes, okay. That takes us to no more items. So Dr. Campos, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
Thank you. Today, we are adjourned for today. Thank you.